Okay, thank you so much, Rich, for jumping on the mic with Michelle today once again. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Of
Boy,
course. Yes.
it's been an interesting little ride we've got going on. Don't you agree?
Life, if it's boring, you're not living, right?
Right.
So we're always going through change and
And that's
there's
okay. This industry has changed so much in the last 30 years that you've got to be able to ride the ups and downs, the peaks and the valleys, and just know that it's going to change again in another year or two.
it'll change when the weather turns and kids go back to school after they get out of school, and then you're gonna have holidays. Your pictures go with Christmas lights in them, and it looks great. It's ever changing, and if the world was stagnant, we wouldn't be living, right?
Be
So
boring. Well, you and I wouldn't enjoy it. That's for darn sure. So talk to me about buyer broker agreement. Is this new to you?
no, not at all.
So tell
We
me
saw
about
this
it.
coming down on our team. We saw this coming last year. So the question I ask is, if we're gonna service a client, whether it's a buyer or a seller, whenever you meet a seller, what do? You sign a listing agreement.
Yeah,
And what do you do before that? You qualify,
you ask
you
questions.
set the appointment, you ask questions, you figure out how you're gonna help them, how you can best serve them. And what do? They sign. They sign. So what did you do to earn that? You provided
Show the
value, you
value.
provided information, you showed up on time, you sounded like a professional, they trust you. They trust you enough to sell largely their very likely their largest asset.
Right.
You know, the
Right.
majority of buyers and sellers that we've worked with, the most equity or the most amount of money they have anywhere at a given time has always been in their home. That's the majority of people, right? And if you look across America and look at consumer debt, most of the population has less than $5,000 in the bank.
This is their biggest asset.
Right. So if you've ever signed a listing agreement, what's the difference in a buyer? Right? That's the question. And the only thing is that I can see is people are like, well, I'm not scripted. I don't know what value. Well, if you've ever signed a listing agreement, then you already know your value.
Right.
So, but what
Or
we
go to
saw,
the or attend the classes that Gary Keller's putting on right now, and Mark, and oh my gosh, it was they're
I,
amazing.
I didn't step into value too. I'm going on the next one. But I mean, we've been signing buyer broker agreements, and Gary told us, you know, initial post COVID world when interest rates started going up, he said you got to get belly to belly with people.
Yeah,
That's one thing that I've done. Like, just get
relationships
belly to belly.
matter.
Go build the relationships, right? They're yeah. Um, I can go on a tangent, and I don't want to do that. Um,
I love it. So tell me, um, do you want to role play or script that, or just tell me how you present it?
well, I'll do this. There's no need to really role play or script practice. Everybody does their own thing, and
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not in that, I didn't put myself in that mindset right now for appointment.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you what I did, right? So when you're meeting with a buyer, right, and sometimes sellers and buyers too, so you got to ask these questions anyway, right? What value are you bringing? Did you meet them at an open house? Let's say, for instance, you met them at an open house, and you're like, hey, well, why don't you come by my office and we'll go over the buying process?
Yes.
Stop, stop. First of all, you don't know these people. You don't know their time frame. You don't know what they want to do. So the only thing you're doing is trying to get them into the appointment so they can sign a freaking paperwork and then fire you later. You have no clue about them, right?
Yeah.
What I've seen work. Now I've done that. Meet people at open houses. Hey, let's go over game plan. And then when the same thing I do with sellers, I do with buyers. Hey, talk to me about your goals. What do you want to do? What's this mean? What does this owning a home mean for you? Why do you want to buy a home? Or as we like to say, because I don't like using why, what's going on in the world that has you interested in real estate today?
I like that.
Right? What's going on in your world? Right? So, anyways, we meet with them. And because we have the skills and knowledge and tools already through production and time in the market, I'm actually able to direct the conversation through scripts and through lots of appointments to say, okay, let me navigate to this point where they're not going to have a clue, right? Where the buyer is playing Connect Four and we're playing chess because we know
Yes.
all the pieces. We know
Yes.
contingencies. We know inspections. We know appraisals. We know pre-approval versus pre-qualification, fully underwritten. We know all that. We know what an SIP is, an RLAS. We know what all that stuff is. They have no idea.
Right.
And if you're going in there, oh, we just want a backyard, you're gonna get laps ran around you. You got to find out
You
what
gotta
they
dig
need.
deep.
You got to dig deep, ask 3 deep, right? Go in and find out what they want to do. Already you've out customer service these people by 90% of these agents out there. So it's getting to know the client and
Know that you
showing them
care.
your true value. Yeah, showing them your value.
Yeah.
And what that means is you're not just a door opener. If you want to be paid at a door opener, come talk to me. I'll pay you 10%. Let's go.
Yeah.
Cool. That's not a realtor. You're not a professional. You're just opening doors. That's fine. Right. Sorry if that's a little harsh. I'm just real.
I
Just
love
real.
real. You know that.
If you
I
just
love
want to
real.
open doors, that's
Keep
great.
going.
There's a total position for you on multiple teams, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But if you really want to be a professional realtor, remember this is a business. So you get the people in, you talk about their goals, their big why they want to do it, where they want to move to, blah, blah. And you're showing the value during your conversation about the pitfalls of real estate that they're gonna walk into. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, we're gonna get a home inspection back and it's gonna be full of red marks. Are you prepared for that?
Yeah.
Here's what that means is we now have negotiation tactics. Okay, cool. We got it this price. We need this concession. We need this repaired, all this. But I walk them through that already so they know I'm knowledgeable about the market. I'm knowledgeable about home buying and selling. They can already see they're communicating with a professional. When we go to sign the buyer broker agreement and we're writing 2.5 or 3% on there, I've literally had it where because we go through the buying process, we show them homes, we've already connected with them to them with the lender predominantly because if they can't get pre-approved, why are you going to meet with them?
Don't waste your time.
That's a 20-minute phone call conversation where they don't have to
Yeah.
drive across town. You don't got to go show homes. Hey, I'm going to get you. We're going to talk with this lender, right? However you want to do it. There's multiple ways to do this. I'm just telling you what you got to streamline it and make sure your time is protected because you only got one life. You only have a little bit of time in the day.
Yeah. Time is money.
And they only have a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about that, think of them, right? So they get pre-approved. Hey, congratulations, all this great stuff. You go through the buying process and maybe you've shown them homes before. One thing that I know works is if you do meet at an open house, you schedule time for the next showing. Assume the close, assume that they can afford the house, build that rapport. So you say, hey, okay, Friday at 3:00 when your kids are out of school, you're off work. We're gonna go check out these 2 or 3 houses. Don't go more than 3. Anything more than 3, you're overworking anyway. But you go meet with them and show them the value that, hey, I'm willing to meet with you. And before you go on that appointment, this is something Brian told me. Hey, you know what? I know we're scheduled at 3:00. What if we do this? Just a half hour before you come into my office, I'll go over the buying process. Then we'll go look at the homes. That way, if you see something, we know that we can write an offer because you know what's coming next.
I love that.
Totally. If you're coming with
Education.
value,
You're
if you've
educating.
ever had a seller sign a document to sell their freaking house, you can have a buyer sign. Now you're going to say, okay, I charge 2.5 or 3%. So far, that's not a big deal, right? And we're going to see what changes they make, what lending guidelines change, and concessions from the seller, and all this stuff. But here's the facts: people will need to move, regardless.
Yes.
They're not going to stay stuck. I promise. I promise that people will move.
I
right?
want
Like-
blood. I want you to write that down.
Right? Yeah. Shake on it. Promise. Promise they're going to move. But what I saw initially, well, first of all, like when I knew we were going to transition to this, like we've been signing buyer broker agreements
So
for
you're
over a
used to it. It's a habit now.
We don't go show homes without one.
Yeah, it's a habit.
Hey, you know what?
Part of your
If you're
business
not
plan.
if you're not willing to commit with me, I'm sorry, my time's valuable. I have 20 other clients that are ready to rock and roll. Look, I get it that you don't want to do it. Why don't you go talk to 2 or 3 other agents, interview who you want, and if we're not a good fit, we're not a good fit. Don't spin your wheels. You're going to spin your wheels on somebody that doesn't want to work with you when you could just lead generate and find somebody that does.
Yes. Power.
We're not. Don't chase the girl that doesn't want you.
Yes.
right?
You're
Don't
so
do it. Or the guy or whoever,
yeah.
right?
Yes,
Don't chase someone that doesn't want you, right?
definitely not.
It's manipulation and gaslighting, and you don't want it. Right? Same with buyers and so on. But know your value. Like, okay, cool. Hey, when I meet with the seller or in this case, buyers, when I meet with a buyer, I already know I play chess, right? I know every start from the start to the finish of the game, exactly what it takes to buy a piece of property right now.
Right.
100%. And like I said, buyers are playing Connect Four. They get their finances, their pre-approval. They go to an open house. They make an offer at the close. That's four,
That's it.
right? That's
Yeah.
it. We have to know contingencies. We have to know appraisal gaps. We have to know pricing. We have to know market trends. We have to know this. We have to know that. And when you go to that appointment with the buyer, if you share this knowledge up front, give everything away for free, if they don't sign, that's because you haven't provided enough value. The
Right.
same with the seller.
100%.
It's the same thing. Say, okay,
100%.
great. Hey, you know what? I know you want to sleep on it, but check this out. We still have a couple homes we want to show you. These are on the market. Let's go take a look. Here's the disclosures for this one or whatever's attached to the MLS. Here's this, here's that, here's that. If they're not willing to sign, right then, still provide value and say, okay, look, I'm going to go show you these. We're going to see how it goes. If I do a good enough job, we're going to agree to work together. Or they have a non-exclusive agreement. So you just put the properties you're going to put there. Hey, before I go show you these, the seller's requiring me to make sure that I know who's accessing. We need to have this agreement right here. This is not exclusive. You don't have to buy these properties with me.
Yeah.
But in order for me to go show, we need to have this signed. Look,
Yes.
it's only for 123 Main Street and 124 Main Street. Fair enough. This document, this thing expires in a week.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever.
Yeah.
But
I love it.
it's not just a one-trick pony. It's not like, hey, we sign our buyers for a year all the time. And
But it's
I'll tell
simple.
you this.
I guess the whole idea of this is sharing to everybody that it's simple. It just needs to become a habit.
You're not recreating the wheel. The wheel's
Yeah.
already been created. You've already been doing the work. Now all you're doing is getting a formal agreement. It's like getting married.
Right.
You're just putting it on a piece of paper and
Yeah.
applying it to the government. In this case, our
Yeah.
brokerage, saying, here you go. Right? It's simple. Now, if you're in your head about
We have
how
5
hard it is,
minutes. So I just want to
Okay.
protect your time.
if it's in your head that it's hard, change that. Say, this is something that I can easily learn.
Yes. It's
If you
teachable.
already signed disclosures, you already signed listing agreements, you already signed RPAs, you already know what an SIP is, an RLAS, you know all this. What is another little document? Most of it's the same disclosures you sign on RPA anyway.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, you're not recreating the wheel. All you got to do,
It's
and
not
this is what
scary.
this is
People
what
are-
I learned early
yeah.
on, and this is what I can advise every agent to do, is read what you are having the buyer or seller sign. If you can explain it in detail and say this, and you can, just like scripts, right? Memorize, internalize, personalize.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing with all these documents. It's not hard. It's not hard. If you think it's hard, you're in your own way. So let's just throw
Definitely.
that out of here. It's not hard. It's something simple and easy. It's written in the language
It's
that you've
new
been
for some
speaking.
people, and that's what's scary. However, once you start making it a habit, it's fine.
Is the RPA, is the buyer broker agreement written in English?
Yes.
Is it written in the language that you comprehend and fully
Right.
understand?
Right.
Okay. So read it, understand it, and then you present it. Now, I will share with you, okay, where things might change a little bit. We'll figure that out as the bridge is actually fully
As we
drawn.
always do.
So I shared this at the team meeting, share this again here, so people come back to it. I had a cash buyer up to over $1 million, and he's very, very, very intelligent man, right? Clinical psychologist, all this
Wow.
stuff, very well,
Yeah.
very, very affluent. And we're going over all this now to get these people in. They said they weren't ready to buy, they weren't ready to meet. I had the wife give me a list of all the houses they wanted in the neighborhood that they wanted. She went around the neighborhood, wrote them all down, sent them over to me. I went and door knocked every single one. Every single one. Now that's value.
Service. Value. Yeah.
Service. without them having an agreement. Finally, after doing all that, they noticed that I was willing to work for them. They decided, hey, you know what? It might happen tomorrow. Let's go meet with Rich and his team and see what they have to offer. You go over all this, go over
Yeah.
exactly what they were looking for, go over the buyer or the buyer, our buyer packet. We go over to the buyer broker agreement. And at this time, I think I'd only done it 3 times, right? Something like that. But
Yeah.
this was over a year ago. They closed on their home. Oh, anyways, it's over a year ago. They now, mind you, I had 2.5% written down on the agreement that this is what I'm working for. And the buyer, one of the buyers, Lawrence, said, Rich, I see that it says this here. I just don't know if I'm comfortable signing this. Right? That's 2.5% on $1 million, it's $25,000. And I said, okay, Lawrence, I totally understand. Now, we do know that the seller typically pays the buyer's agent. The commission comes out of that side. Well, the listing agent is actually paid, and the listing agent's compensation actually pays the buyer. So, does the seller pay for us, or does the listing agent pay? Right. That's the way to think about it. So, he says, well, Rich, what if they offer less than 2.5%? I said, Lawrence, that's a wonderful question. Let me ask you something on top of that. So, would you think it's better for me to come after you for 5% if they don't offer the 2.5% that I say I'm working for? Would you think it's better for me to come after you for that 0.5%? Or if I do a wonderful job, I just get the referrals for the rest of your life? And he said, you know what? I trust you. Let's rock and roll. Right? He didn't say let's rock and roll. That's my saying, but he signed the dotted line. Boom. Found him a house in 2 weeks, closed. It was actually, we ended up doing it for $850 cash. We got a deal. Right?
That's beautiful.
But don't overcomplicate it. Provide your value. Say, hey, look, we're going to request that the seller pay for this. And look, if it's not 2.5% or 3% or 4%, whatever you charge, because no one dictates that.
Right.
You say, hey, you know what? We're going to request the seller pay for this, and we're going to fine tune an agreement here. Okay. This is what I work for. This is what I charge. As you can see, this is everything you get.
Yeah.
Right.
I love it. I truly, truly appreciate you jumping on the mic with me one more time. I'm sure it's going to be happening again. And you'll be teaching this class shortly here in the office. So thank you.
I will. That's not next week. That's the 17th, right?
I believe so.
Talking
I
about it.
believe so. Yeah.
As
So
people
thank you.
know right here, I know we got to jump, but so we know I'm very direct. I don't really need to get into the nuance. If you're overthinking it, stop overthinking it. It's just a little document. Read it, understand it, provide value, and be a professional. Be a professional.
Stop overthinking it.
I don't think about anything, and look at how great that's turning out. I'm just kidding.
I love it. I love it.
All
All
right,
right,
thank you,
Dal, you have
Michele.
a beautiful day, and thanks for jumping on the mic.
You too. Bye.